another round with myself, Mike Thomas, my co-host Hamza Hanif. Today we're going to be going over a couple of fights from the past weekend. Obviously, Charlo's emphatic win over Castano in the second fight, the rematch. And we're also going to be going over Tony Yoka's surprise loss to Paulie. And then we're also going to go over the big British clash this weekend between Craig Spider Richards and Joshua Buatsi, and also a couple of fights on the undercard that I'm excited about to cover as well.
I'm fantastic, mate. I'm fantastic. How are you feeling? Have you been confirmed with the COVID or?
Yeah, just so I know, because I just want to say this. If I'm coughing throughout this, I'm going to try my best. I've just come back from a wedding in Virginia, which the bride was sweating. I thought she was just stressed out, but she told us, texted us when we got back. She's like, "Oh, I've got COVID." And everybody, there was like 60 people at the wedding.
The happiest day of my life.
Father and the bride's got COVID. I'm sweating like crazy and I've been coughing like mad. So apologies if I'm coughing all the way through. But yeah, good fight by Charlo. What an absolute strong, solid performance from him. It was great to see. What did you watch it? Did you watch it back?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I did watch it the day after because just the times in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what it is? Before we actually talk about the fight, I just want to say I loved what PBC did on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen this, but the next day I woke up and I was like, where am I gonna find the fight? Like, I don't want to just go on YouTube because it was play highlights and stuff. And I was like, I want to watch the full fight. And PBC had put the whole card on YouTube for the UK market. So in brackets, it was like only in the UK. And I thought that was really good because like they're now introducing a lot of PBC fighters like Charlo, where if you're in the UK, unless you're a diehard boxing fan and you're looking for those particular fights, you're never going to see them because they're behind a paywall, and it's very difficult. So I think that was really, really smart because there is value about putting up free content, putting it on YouTube. So yeah, I really respect PBC for that.
That's really good. You got to give them credit for the way that they do like the kind of movie style build-ups, like Showtime. I love Showtime's build-up when they do like episodes before a big fight with like Errol Spence and Ugas. That was great. I love the way that they do kind of like do those videos. They don't seem to put on as many fights. Like there's not, and the undercard isn't always that great, but when they do them, they do a lot of good video footage before. But anyway, yeah, go on, carry on. Just want to say that.
That is what they call in the business shoulder programming. And it's used to promote a fight. And honestly, you're absolutely right. Even the Mayweather ones back in the day, like those hour-long specials, and it's like 4 episodes or something.
Yeah.
And they're so good, and the edits are always mint, and they're like coming out of a garage in a Lamborghini or some shit, you know what I mean? And it's epic. There's loads of incredible shots of them in the gym.
Yeah,
and it gets you hyped up for the fight. Like definitely,
just doing the jump rope, just doing the Mike Tyson skipping. Yeah,
so I wish I could skip like that. You know,
I've done that. I've learned how to do that, mate. I'll have to show you next time I'm there.
The crisscross.
Yeah, man. I can do it. I can only do it twice.
Bro, you're gonna have to show me. You're gonna have to show me how to do that. My footwork.
I can only do it twice. So Mike Tyson used to be able to do it like 8 times, like that, just crisscrossing it.
Have you seen Floyd Mayweather do it and Errol Spence Jr. do it? Fuck me.
Do you know who I was telling you about? Caleb Plant. You should see Caleb Plant jump rope. He is amazing. He is so good. He's one of the best guys I've ever seen. And then he's also really good on the speedball as well.
What's that?
I was watching him on
the Caleb Plant.
He's an absolute machine. I saw him on the speedball, and he was going like this. He was going like that. He was doing the Floyd Mayweather thing where he doesn't look. So he's like this. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Then he did a little spin, and he like knocked it with his elbows. So he did both with his elbows and then carried on going in rhythm, in time. It was fucking amazing.
That's mad.
Yeah, I'll have to send that to you. But anyway, where was I? Where were we? It's really good that PBC is paying attention to the UK market because they know that we're freaking mad on boxing. We're absolute nuts for boxing. So I think that's a really good move. I like that they've done that.
Massively. Like think about it. If they start putting people like Ennis, people like
Boots Ennis,
people like Charlo,
yeah,
like all these big fighters that are exclusive to PBC. If they start putting that stuff on YouTube where it's easy to access for boxing fans, imagine if they then fight a British fighter, the numbers that's going to do,
yeah, exactly.
And the interest that's going to generate.
Especially the Charlo twins as well, because they're just absolute mad entertainment, aren't they? They're just so entertaining to watch them. To London, for example, they probably wouldn't ever do that. But if a British fighter came to America and fought them, mate, that would do absolute numbers. That would do numbers and a half. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what did you think of the Charlo fight?
Yeah, so the actual fight itself, you can tell that Charlo had something to prove from the last one. I think you mentioned it in the previous video. There was, I think, a slight element of Charlo thinking he was just going to blitz Castano.
Mm-hmm.
And Castano just wasn't having it.
Yeah.
And honestly, to be honest, it was such a good fight. It was one of my favorite fights this year. I remember watching it thinking, fucking hell, this is a brilliant fight.
First 5 rounds as well. It was quite even, wasn't it? First 5 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Castano can really fucking take it. And there was points where he was just in the pocket and you're thinking, like, maybe you should step out of there, man. But like, he was brave and he was committed.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant fighter, the Castano. Another thing that I realized that I never realized before is that he's actually got Castano on his back as well. So he's got like Castano tatted on his own back, which is a strong move, man. But like, honestly, brilliant fight. I think as the fight started to go past the halfway mark, you know, those shots that Castano was catching, he was starting to wear them a little bit more. He was starting to get affected by them a little bit more. And it was interesting because the punch that hurt him and eventually led to him being knocked out was a left hook to the temple. And it was a brilliant shot by Charlo. But I also think he was able to sort of soak up those straight shots a little bit better. And he got hit in the temple, and the first knockdown, he never really, he was done after that. His legs were gone. He just didn't look the same. And then Charlo just fucking barraged him. But massive performance by Charlo, and he put an exclamation mark on it.
He did. And he signified, and we've just got to say, you know, he's the younger by like 3 seconds or whatever it is, younger Charlo brother, slightly smaller in the super welter. But I would say he does look quite big for the weight. And I think, no doubt, as we seem to be saying every week, I would imagine him to move up now because, you know, that actual weight category, super welter, is kind of thin on the ground. And, you know, he's clearly above and beyond everybody else in that weight category, which I know not everybody was saying, but I think that was always going to come to fruition. You know, now that he's put his stamp on it, I think he should probably take on some bigger boys now and move up a bit. But yeah, that was a good knockout, a good win even, good overall. But yeah, moving on to the Tony Yoka versus Martin Bakole fight. Now, that was an interesting fight. It didn't get much coverage. It doesn't usually when it's in France because the French don't really kind of care about hamming it up outside of France. It was in Paris last weekend. And Tony Yoka is a very hard-hitting heavyweight. Dave, the White Rhino Allen, who is obviously the benchmark for boxers, he actually he came out and said that Tony Yoka is probably one of the hardest punches I've ever faced. And bear in mind as well that you say that and think, oh, who's Dave Allen fight? Well, actually, it's not just about that. It's who he's sparred with. He's been in with Dillian Whyte. He's fought Luis Ortiz. Man. He had Dillian Whyte, he had Luis Ortiz. He sparred with Usyk. I think he sparred with Tyson Fury too. And he came out and said, look, Tony Yoka by far has got the biggest punch, the hardest punch I've ever faced. And it was weird because obviously they've set up that fight with Martin Bakole. Like Martin Bakole's like some kind of cannon fodder. They expected it to be an easy, you know, Martin Bakole is not massively well known. He's a big brute of a man, you know, and he's been trained up in Scotland. But he came out and he just got dominated. It was so surprising. Tony Yoka, and this is the guy who was giving it the big the other week when Real Madrid beat Man City, and because he's like a big France, you know, obviously a big Benzema fan. And by the way, Real Madrid would not be in the final without Benzema because he's basically carrying them to the final. But he was giving it the big I am all that. And I feel like he just didn't even train. Do you know what I mean? I feel like he didn't care or prepare because he looked so bad. He got battered in the first round and he went over on his ankle. And he just didn't look he didn't look himself. And I think Martin McCauley was well deserved to win that. He just dominated him from start. It didn't even look like he had a foot in the game, which was really surprising because Tony Yoka's a pretty good fighter. He's not very well known, but, you know, it was really surprising just how dominating he was. And I think now Martin McCauley can springboard into some of the UK heavyweights, and I think he'll want to like get a bigger name on his record now. And good matchup.
I think he needs to go like a level below White. Do you know what I mean? I think outside of AJ and sort of Usyk and Fury, that's White's level. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I think McCauley's not quite there. Maybe a Dubois. Dubois would be a good fight for him.
Yeah.
I think Dubois wins that, to be fair, but it's a good matchup for the pair of them.
Speaking of Dubois, obviously he's had a long time out, and you know he got that definitive win recently, but he took it heavy, that loss to Joe Joyce, which was quite, you know, obviously it was an even fight, but he's got that big fight coming up in Miami against Brian. I'm excited to I'm hoping to go to that fight, but I don't know. But that'll be a big fight. And then obviously this weekend, huge British fight matchup between the light heavyweights. Craig Spider Richards, who obviously took Bivol, by the way, 12 rounds. You know, Bivol still won, but it was a good fight from Craig Richards. Took him a long way. Joshua Buatsi, who is undefeated and you know, kind of like the golden boy, another one of Eddie Hearn's golden boys, through the Olympics, gone down the Anthony Joshua route through the Olympic Village and all that stuff, and now to professional. So that'll be a great fight. That'll be a very close fight, I think. 50-50.
I'm super excited for this one. To be honest, it's been very poorly promoted in the UK, this fight, because as you correctly said, it is a 50-50 fight, and it's a massively intriguing fight as well, because they're both from South London, and I believe they're both boxed out of the same amateur club as well, Crystal Palace, or something like that. So it's really interesting because that's a really interesting dynamic, because almost like the Gale and Grooves, like both men are very familiar with each other, and both men sort of know that each other, it's weird because you've got to think, if you're that sort of close to somebody in terms of where the exact same coaching and everything like that, you must know that you can beat that person. So the fact that both of them signed, you're dying on the mic, but both men must have this confidence that they can best the other man in order for them to sign for that particular fight, you know. So it's really interesting. It's a massive dynamic. I think Eddie Hearn and that kind of dropped the ball a little bit on this one, because I think it could have been much bigger.
I think also the amount of fights that Eddie Hearn is putting out. I don't want to seem like I'm kissing his ass every week, but he's getting a lot of flack, obviously, with Sky. Obviously, Sky is a big rival right now. They're more seen as rival. They used to be partners. Just signing Danny Whittaker. He's had a lot going on, and I think he just hasn't had the time. Do you know what I mean? He's just got fights after fights after fights. That he's just got so many fights coming up that he's not had the promotion that he probably should have done. And you know, there was hardly anyone there at the weigh-in. But what I did notice at the weigh-in, by the way, was there was a lot. You say that there's supposed to be like not much nail, but I thought there was a lot of nail there between them two, and the stare down at the weigh-in. They looked at each other, and Joshua Buatsi kind of models himself as this kind of good, honest church boy that is just like good morals. He'll never say a swear word. He'll never do anything bad. But he looked like he wanted to tear his head off. He's a nice guy outside the ring, but in the ring, he's an absolute animal. I think that's going to be a great fight. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't even be surprised if Spider Richards fucking does the unexpected and comes away with a big heavy hand, because he's actually been billed as like the underdog, even though he's won the coin toss. He's coming out second. but Joshua's expected to win. But I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think it's going to be a very close fight there.
Out of the two of them, Richards has had bigger experience in terms he's been in with Bivol. Obviously, he lost that fight, and it was probably not Bivol at his best either, and it probably wasn't Richards at his best either, to be fair. But you know, Buatsi's had like 15 fights. He's unbeaten. You're absolutely right. It's funny that you mentioned that he's like a good, honest church boy, because I remember when he fought Bolotniks in his last fight at the fight camp, he was sat in this chair and this guy was like reading the Bible, like he was reading like some verse of the Bible, and he was just sat there like with his eyes closed, like leaned back in the chair, right? And it looks fucking awesome. And then as the guy started to like sort of like build up, like sort of the cadence in his voice, he started to get more excited. He started.
What was he saying? Because you're like, I shall tear your fucking head off. I will. Thou shalt smash his head in. No, sorry, no offense. I'll probably cut that out. That's probably offended people. But yeah, no, what did he say in the verse?
I've no idea. I'm not super familiar with that particular verse of the Bible, but it was clearly some inspiring shit to him, because he jumped up and started shadow boxing, and it just looked awesome and it sounded awesome. Yeah, so I think he is a very intense bloke, Joshua Buatsi.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's a real 50-50 fight. I would probably lean towards Richards, but I wouldn't be surprised if either man takes it. Really, I'm just excited for a good domestic fight.
Yeah, I think Buatsi is the favorite going into this fight. Like you say, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Richards that wins. I think it's a lot more even than maybe people think. Given the way he fought against Bivol, you know, the way he took Bivol 12 rounds. I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm excited for that. There's that fight. There's a couple of good fights on the undercard as well. You know, Matchroom usually do put some good fights on the undercard. I'm excited to see one of my favorite fighters, Alan the Savage Babic, again. So I'm excited. Another great personality in boxing, huge personality. Hopefully his boxing matches his personality and he can live up to his name, because it looks like he's going to destroy this other guy, who actually is quite big actually. But they're fighting under the new weight, the Bridgerweight Division.
I was going to say, which is perfect for someone the size of Alan Babic. Sorry, I couldn't get his name out there. I do apologize. Yeah, and it's a perfect weight for someone like him. And who was that guy that Dillian Whyte fought as well?
Yeah, Oscar Rivas.
Yes, people like that. Andy Ruiz would be fucking a menace at Bridgerweight.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting weight class, that one.
It's interesting because it's like you're a heavy guy, but you're not got the height on. You're not like a giant like Wilder and Fury, but they're still carrying the heavy weight. They just don't have that kind of reach in the size that the kind of modern heavyweights have.
Some of the heavyweights, it's like when they're that big, it becomes like such a advantage. You know what I mean? Like if you're like a Vladimir Klitschko, but like Tyson Fury, like, you know, massive bloke, like you're six. Yeah, if you're 6'7", 6'8", you even make a 6'5" guy look kind of small, and the wingspan on some of these guys, it almost becomes like a little bit of a cheat code.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about the Bridgerweight division is they're not like, they're like 6'2", 6'4". You know what I mean? They're not they'll probably have a bit more in the tank, but they'll also have enough power to like to put your lights out with that one shot. You know, that single shot knockout power. So it's going to be really good, that weight class.
Interesting how that plays out. You know, if all of the weight divisions get on board with that, because I think it needed to be done. Like we were saying before, it probably would have been better if they just made it super, like in the amateurs, they made it super heavyweight and heavyweight. But we'll see how it goes anyway. But that's an interesting
definitely fight. I think you've made a really good point there, just to wrap up that, like, I think you've made a fantastic point there, because the problem with the Bridgerweight division is it's going to need like a big name fighter to become a Bridgerweight champion to attract other talented fighters to that weight class. Do you know what I mean? Where if they'd have just made a super heavyweight division and made a limit on the weight, you know, say 250, 260 pounds, whatever, for argument's sake, would then be super heavyweight. You've already got some amazing fighters that are heavyweight that would slot right in. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, you know, somebody who's a little bit lighter could slot into the just normal heavyweights, like Wilder, for example, even though Wilder's massively tall, or Lawrence Bacall.
But he doesn't weigh a lot, though. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
What did he weigh for the Fury?
207, 205 normal.
Yeah.
Normally he's like 205, 207. I think he weighed like 238 for that last fight, which was way too heavy for him. I think that would have been better. But anyway, we'll see how Bridgerweight comes in. Like you said, there's not a lot of fighters there, so it's easy for someone like Alan the Savage Babbage to get some kind of world title or get some kind of title in that weight division, because there's not enough fighters in that right now. But you know, as people kind of get more aware of it, I think it'll become a lot bigger. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, it'll be good. That's a good fight. There's a couple of women on the undercard as well. Chantal Cameron, I'm excited to see her. She's one of my favorite female fighters. Ellie Scottney, she's on the undercard as well.
Talking about female fighters, did you see the fact that Savannah Marshall had an operation?
Yes, I did. That's
the Shield fight back as well.
Yeah, it's annoying because I just did a video where I said that they're fighting at the beginning of July, which is now going to get knocked back like 4 or 5 weeks.
I think it's going to be like August time now, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was really excited to watch that fight.
At least it's not a massive delay, and we'll still get it in summer.
Yeah.
Because that's a massive fight, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's going to be, I think somebody gets knocked out badly in that fight.
Yeah. I think
that's someone in Shields.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's interesting because it really divides the board. So, you know, it's one of them fights where it's like you either love or hate the other person, and it really splits opinions. And
no, I really like them both. I'm not gonna.
I like them both.
I really like them.
Yeah,
both.
No, I like them both.
But it's just Savannah Marshall from Hartlepool, and she hits so fucking hard. She's like a mule.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, I'm
fueled on chicken parmesans and fucking, do you know what I mean? Like all that good stuff.
Pot noodles, absolutely. I think it's great. So there's Alan Babbage, Ellie Scottney, Chantel Cameron, Robbie. Oh, fight of the night. Might be a surprise fight of the night. Robbie Davis Jr., my friend.
He's always in a cracker.
Javier Molina. Them two, because he's a little Mexican firecracker, and Robbie Davis Jr., them two are going to be at it, and that's going to be a really good fight. So if you can watch that. I love that it's all on DAZN because it's in London as well, because it'll be on dead early. Also, I don't know if you know about this guy, but Siobhan Clark, who was an Olympic cruiserweight, he has been on social media for the longest time, just like commenting on all the boxing posts for ages. And I was like, who's this guy? And then I looked him up and found out, you know, he was fighting in the Olympics. He's had one professional fight, which he won easily. He's got another one tomorrow night against a guy who looks a bit like me. He looks like it's going to be very one-sided. He looks very
your body double.
Yeah, he's a Polish guy, and
Polish
guy,
Mike.
by the way, this guy looks like Mike Tyson. Siobhan Clark, look him up. He's got the body physique of Mike Tyson. He's like 5'10", 5'11", built like a mule, man. He's just muscle on muscle. I'm excited to see that fight. It'll be a good one. So that's on the undercard as well.
I'll keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, one to look out for. Yeah, and that's it. I think it's going to be a good night. It's going to be a good evening. It probably won't get the respect that it deserves because, you know, it's only the diehards like me and you that's going to be watching it. Also, I should mention as well, David Lemieux from Canada, who I always remember.
Oh, he was, yeah, I like Lemieux.
Joe Saunders put an absolute job on him, I remember, in Canada.
Proper job on him.
David Lemieux is fighting Benavidez, who is undefeated, obviously one of the guys who was interested in, you know, getting unified, and it looks like a kind of a perfect kind of matchup for him. Obviously, he's expected to win. But that's on as well on Showtime. It's obviously following weekend, huge fight, which is obviously getting a lot of traction already with Tank Davis and Romero, which has been well hyped. Yeah, big promotion on that. All of the build up to that is going to be big, so we'll do some stuff on that like next week.
I like Gervonta Davis because I think he's one of those fighters. He's similar to the Charlo twins over in America, where they're comfortable talking shit on the mic. They're comfortable getting aggressive and getting in people's faces. And to a degree, as much as we love like sort of, you know, the fights, everybody likes to see a bit of push and a push and a pull. You know what I mean? As Carl Frost would say.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. I do have a lot of time for Davis, and from what I've seen as well from the build up to the fight, that Rolly guy was given as good as he got as well. And he was quite a flamboyant guy.
Right. I'm be honest with you. I think Gervonta Tank Davis is absolutely going to wipe the floor with this Romero guy, right? But this Romero guy is very confident. The funny thing about this is he's so confident. He's been saying some outrageous stuff. He's been coming out saying some crazy stuff.
That if you have any intention of being anything more than like sort of a journeyman fighter or a decent fighter, you have to believe that you're going to beat everybody, and you're not only going to beat them, but you're going to badly beat them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like Conor Benn right now. He thinks he can fucking run through walls. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love, don't get me wrong, I love Conor McGregor so much. I think he was such an entertainment value. That's what you want. You want people with big personalities like that. He came out. He was so entertaining. I always remember when he was in that fight with what was his name that broke his leg? When he was in that fight,
Justin Poirier.
Was it Poirier or was it somebody else?
No, it was Poirier. It was the second Poirier fight.
Yeah, his leg was hanging off.
Third
He was like,
Poirier fight. Sorry.
He's like, I'll fuck him up. And his leg was like hanging off.
Your wife's in the DMs.
Your wife's in my DMs. Yeah, leg was like hanging off him, and he's like, I still fuck you up. Like, it was so funny. But yeah.
Conor McGregor was great when he was on the come up. But as they say, you know what I mean, his reign was short. And it was one of those, bro. Like,
and who else had that belief was before he lost to Fury was Deontay Wilder in a big way.
Yeah.
And his belief was he believed in himself so much that, you know, people were starting to believe him, you know what I mean? And he looked unbeatable at one point. He looked like he was undefeatable and nobody could beat him. So yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. That's a very good point.
It's mad as well because when you get that sort of confidence behind you, like it's almost like Mike Tyson when he was coming on his heyday. Like your opponents almost sense it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it has a massive psychological effect when you're fighting somebody who has this sort of I'm invincible mentality. Now, obviously, it can in certain times it can work against the fighter. You know what I mean? But more often than not, that crazy belief can get them through some shit that they normally wouldn't be able to get through.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think also, you know, half of Mike Tyson's opponents were already beaten before he even walked in. Do you know what I mean? As he's walking into the ring walk, they shit themselves as most people would.
He was a master of intimidation, Mike Tyson. You know, he looks like a fucking scary bloke to begin with. And I remember watching this story that Teddy Atlas was relaying about him. And he was saying that there was one thing that he used to do in the amateurs. Where he would start like he would find a part of the wall, say if they were in a corridor warming up. And obviously, the other opponent would just be on the other side of the hallway because it's just an amateur show. It's not like they've got their own dressing rooms. And he would find a spot in the wall that was weaker, like he would just be punching the wall like very lightly. And he'd find a spot in the wall that was weak, and he would just wail into that spot and like break it, and like fucking the wall would come down. That it was like plaster, it would like smash. and the effect that would have on the opponent.
Up to the man that he became, because Custamato taught him all of these things. One of the other things I remember Mike talking about was how he used to try and intimidate people just on even small things, like the psychology of answering questions just by not saying anything and just staring at people. So people would ask Mike a question and he would just stare at them and just not answer for ages. And just off of that would like intimidate them as well. So all of these things are like psychology that Custamato was obviously attuned to, that kind of pumped into Mike to make him like the ultimate like.
You know what is like the most legendary Mike Tyson interview, and it's like so underrated, is where like there's like a group of reporters like sitting around, and then that woman asks him a question, and he's like, "I don't speak to women unless I fornicate with them."
Yeah.
It's such a mad statement as well.
Just something random, like how are you going to reply to that? On the spot as well. Like what do you say to that? That's just nuts. Yeah, it was funny. It was very funny, mate. What a guy. I love Mike Tyson.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fantastic summer of the old fisticuffs.
It is, mate. Joshua rematch as well in July, mate. It's all going off.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was good talking to you, buddy. And that's been another episode of Another Round.